generally give us the impact and how much this is affecting the entire Southern California area?
Man, it was just like the whole city feels empty right now. And I think Kobe was always very aware of his status as symbolism in Los Angeles. I mean, he's a guy who grew up here, right? I mean, he came here when he was 17, one of the youngest players. And, I'm basically the same age as him. I remember him taking Brandy to the prom, right? We were, and I went off to college for 4 years and came back, and he was still kind of a young man and working through, a pretty bad playoff failure when he airballed those shots against the Utah Jazz. You saw him in all his promise as a young man, and then you saw him grow into a champion and go through some just awful personal situations. He was obviously rocked by scandal in 2003. He comes back and, after a couple of really rough years for everyone involved, the Lakers win again. And it just when you see somebody in all of their humanity, whether it's good or ugly or raw, and they let you see them. And I think he let us see him, right? And everything he was feeling all the time. You feel like a guy. And, I remember when he was retiring, it felt like New York must have felt about Derek Jeter, right? Because he'd been there for so long, and it's like 2 decades. So people, who were his age, they'd grown up at the same time as him, people who were young, felt like they've known him as their entire lives. I mean, 2 decades with one franchise, but not just 2 decades. It was 2 decades of legendary play. I think he was always aware of what he meant to the city and what he meant to people, and he tried to be that. He tried to be that symbol of just indomitable will. Indomitable will. That's no matter what was going on in the game, what he was going through, how much pain he was in. I mean, we all have Kobe stories, right? Like I remember he played on this terribly sprained ankle. And I think he tweeted a picture of the X-ray, and we were like, that was once he discovered Twitter. And he went out and he played for 10 minutes. And I was like, why did you play? Obviously you couldn't even play. And he goes, I just wanted to see what it felt like to play on an ankle that was sprained that badly, so that I would know what I was capable of. Right? I mean, Kobe, when he tears his Achilles, goes out and takes those 2 free throws. And that's the enduring image that we'll always remember him on the court. But I remember talking to him right after that, and the first thing he did, he cried, he mourned, he felt terrible as he realized his basketball career was probably at the beginning of the end. But he gets on the phone to Patrick Soon-Shiong, who's a world-renowned doctor here and also a part owner of the Lakers, and he says, what do I need to know right now? Will it heal better if I get the surgery now? And the doctor said, the sooner you get under the knife to repair the tendons, the better. And Kobe told me later, it was the difference between coming back in 7 months or 9 months, right? He just let him cut him into him when he was still raw and the tendon was still raw. I mean, that was Kobe. And I think everybody here has these ridiculous Kobe stories of indomitable will and defiance and just bending the universe to whatever you wanted it to be. And so it's just unfathomable to me that he's no longer here, that this legend in our midst is gone.
Talking to Ramona Shelburne with us, ESPN senior writer on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Protect your engine this winter. Use Shell Pennzoil, synthetic motor oil made from natural gas, not crude oil. Ramona, you talk about everyone being so affected in their own personal ways like that. I'm so interested. We had games played yesterday, and we saw the emotional outpouring from not only people that covered him, but players in this league, some who were his peers and some who were much too young for that. What had Kobe's relationship become with the current players in the NBA, the ones that are now in a league that he's no longer a part of?
Yeah, I think he knew he was a legend, and he just wanted to be that for them. When we were writing, all our tributes at the end, I was doing a story with him, and he wasn't interested in really doing any more long stories. He was doing press conferences in every city and saying goodbye to the fans there, and letting everyone write their retirement stories. But the idea of doing a big, exhaustive story was not appealing. And I said, so what would be appealing? And he said, the only thing for me to do right now is to pass on what I've learned. I said, okay, fine. So we're going to really do that story. I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to ask you everything, even the uncomfortable stuff. And he said, fine, anything, whatever you want to ask, everything's on the table. And like for months, we would go back and forth. I would call him out on stuff that I thought was he was just spinning. I would ask him all this difficult stuff. I asked him about Colorado. I asked him about his relationship with his parents. That's obviously very fractured. Phil Jackson calling him uncoachable. Teammates who just thought he was such a jerk and selfish and all of it. And he had answers for all of it. And he seemed to kind of enjoy talking about it, not in this sort of cathartic, therapeutic way, but knowing that what it really took to have the life and career that he had was not always pretty. He had a quote to me. He said, we're all angels and we're all wicked. We're all devils. And he goes, that's what being a human is. And the only thing we have to fear is being afraid of that, is being afraid of our own humanity. And I think he just wanted other players to see that it's not easy to be Kobe Bryant. This is what you really have to go through and sacrifice to have that kind of career. I talked to Joel Embiid yesterday, and he was just devastated by it. He goes, Ramona, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Kobe. He was a young boy in Cameroon. He wasn't even playing basketball at the time, and he saw Kobe play in the finals, and it just that mentality, that willpower, that indomitable spirit that Kobe had, that's what draw Joel Embiid to the game of basketball. And I think that when we say that now, this Mamba mentality, this legendary quality about him that, really transcended basketball. I mean, I could just say that to somebody in India or China or Japan or Russia or Israel or Africa. I mean, and they all know what you're talking about. It means something different to people all across the world, but everybody knows what that is. And I think for me, it's what I'll remember most about him as a man. Player was just the first part of his life and his journey, but the man that he was and that he shared with all of us was, I don't think we'll meet many like him.